fact, when I was born, I was brought up living in a caravan. It's not that my parents were gypsies, it's just that they had no money when they got together, and literally I was brought up in a caravan and my family bounced along the poverty line in all the years that I was growing up. I went to school on the local council estate. I never did particularly well at school. I left school with like 4 exams, one of which was woodwork and one of which was drawing. So you don't have to be a genius to run this type of business at all. The simple system that I'll show you in the book details exactly how I went from starting on a shoestring budget, working in my spare time, to banking over £50 million just doing what I've been taught. I'll show you step by step how I did it, right from when I got started, right through to making my first million and going on to become a multi-millionaire using exactly what I show you in the book. What I'll show you in this book allowed me to walk into my boss's office at work and to hand in my notice so that I could start my business. Now, you don't need to do that, by the way. You don't need to hand in your notice to start this business. Sensibly, you should start this on a part-time basis, literally evenings and weekends. Turn the TV off for a few nights a week. Evenings and weekends, you can get started on this and you can get this business up and running before you go and tell your boss what to do with the job. This simple little system allowed me to move out of my little 3-bed semi on the local housing estate into my very first £1 million house. A house that I paid for in cash. I mean, you should have seen the look on my solicitor's face when I walked into her office and I presented her with a cheque for £1 million in cash to buy the house. No mortgage, no loans or anything. £1 million in cash that I could buy that house for. This system has totally, fundamentally changed my life. In the book that I'd like to send you a free copy of today, I'll show you exactly how the system works. I'll show you how I got started on a shoestring, and I'll show you how everything works so that you can copy this idea for yourself. Now, this book went straight into the Sunday Times Business bestseller charts. Not once, not twice, but 3 times it's appeared in the Sunday Times Business bestseller list. Not content with that, it also went in straight in at #1 in the W.H. Smith's business charts. And it also went in the same month. It went not only in the business charts, but it also went into the non-fiction charts in W.H. Smith as well. So for 1 month, we're #1 in both of their top non-fiction charts. It even made an appearance in the Sainsbury's book chart, and I've never seen a business book in the Sainsbury's book chart, but we managed to get a position within the Sainsbury's book chart as well. So this book has been featured not only in all the W.H. Smith's high street stores, but it's also been featured in the Sainsbury's charts in about 500 stores nationally. In the book, there's a chapter called The First Million, where I take you from literally starting up in my spare room on a shoestring budget through to the point where I pulled in my first £1 million using the system that I lay out in the book. There are loads of other chapters. I mean, there's one called Stack the Deck in Your Favour, because I do believe in business that you know, if you can find a way to stack the deck in your favour so you've got a greater chance of success rather than failure, it just makes sense to do it that way. There's a chapter called What Sells Best and How I Make My Money, where I show you exactly what it is that I do. I show you exactly what it is that I sell, the types of products that I sell, and I show you exactly how I make my money. I show you in detail how the system works. Probably the most important chapter in the book is one called How to Go from Making a Few £100 to Banking Your First Million. In this chapter, I take you literally from the point where I've started my business using the system that I was shown. I've started up in my spare room. I've got it to the point where it's pulling in a few £100, and then I just tweaked the business system that I've been shown slightly. I just gave it a little tweak, and that one little tweak, which I detail in the book, took me from making a few £100 to banking my first £1 million. You're going to want to see that chapter. There's also a chapter in the book called It's Not Just About the Money, which is kind of an odd thing to have in a book on how to make money. But for me, it isn't just about the money. Once I'd used the system myself, once I'd banked the £50 million, once I put myself in a position where I was financially free, so I'd sorted out my own financial situation, I'd helped my family and a couple of friends that needed some assistance as well. Once I'd taken care of that business, once I'd bought myself the house and the car, and I'd enjoyed the holidays and all the other things that having the money brings, I then decided to do something different. Because when I was growing up as a kid in relative poverty, I promised myself that if ever I found a way out of poverty, if ever I found a way to make a huge amount of money, that I'd do 2 things. Number 1, I'd share that with other people so they could copy what I've done, and I think you'll agree that's what I've done by offering you a copy of the book. I said I decided I'd share the information with other people, But more importantly, I also decided that if I made a lot of money, I'd do something sensible with it rather than just frittering it away on all the kind of toys and the glitzy stuff. I mean, just as an example, I've got one of my students. That student followed exactly the system that I taught him. He came to one of my workshops a couple of years ago. He's followed my system, and already he's banked over £10 million doing exactly what I showed him. He followed my system in detail, exactly as I showed him how to do. He started the thing off from his spare room at home, and already he's pulled in over £10 million. But it's kind of gone to his head a little bit. This is a guy who likes to spend on bling. He's bought a wristwatch. He bought this wristwatch, right, which is kind of covered in all sorts of bling and diamonds and things. He paid something like £60,000 for a wristwatch.